thank you, everybody, and welcome to Media Monday. I'm your host, Nick Palavita. I'm not sure if this is the Snake Pit, the Lawyer's Den, or a Media Monday, but I believe we're on Media Monday today. And with that, we're going to introduce our guest. Hailing as from the former Associate Dean of the University of South Dakota School of Law, also sits on the Board of Trustees of the South Dakota Trust Company. Let's bring in one of our favorite attorneys, Dr. Dan Worthington. Dr. Dan Worthington, welcome to the show. Okay, I'm going to go from the benign to the hotheads, because the thing is, then I'm going to see if I can leave out and get some popcorn, or get something to drink, eat some popcorn when these two people go to battle. But with that, we're going to bring from down under a retired hedge fund manager, multi-billion-dollar hedge fund manager from Australia. Today on the show is Shaquille Latmer. Okay,
unemployed lump that I am.
Unemployed as of soon to be, but he's going to be looking for his future in media or whatever the heck else he's going to do. Now, this person also is a former professor, also a co-author of a 4 million best-selling book called The Millionaire Next Door. Let's bring in Professor Bill Danko. Professor Bill Danko, welcome to the show. Okay. Now, us four, we can sit back and listen to all the arguments of these next two people, because the thing is, I get on the internet and I'm going, look at all this stuff. I don't have time to read it. I got to get to read it. So I won't have to read it. I can just listen to it. Apparently, the shy and evasive Pulitzer Prize winner, lecturer at Syracuse Law School. Let's bring in the shy David K. Johnson. David K. Johnson, welcome to the show. Yes. Perfectly Legal. I forgot that, author of Perfectly Legal. And now we bring in from the Lawyer's Den. This gentleman actually went to the University of Southern California, where he received his bachelor's degree, then went to the Ohio State University, where he received his law degree. Then he went to University of Alabama, where he received his master's in science and criminal studies, or whatever they do with criminals. They went to New York University, where he received his LLM. Notice this guy's getting a lot of education. Taught law school at the Indiana Tech School of Law, and now also teaches at Georgia College, where he's currently in residence thereof. Let's bring in from the Lawyer's Den, Adam Lamparero. Adam, welcome to the show.
Great to see you, Nick. Thanks.
Okay. I didn't get to see all your arguments between you and David K. Johnson. I get up.
Oh, I saw them. I thought they were great. But
Really
Adam,
great.
can I just say you should probably remove the NYU reference from your resume, because I do believe that AOC got an economics degree or something like that from NYU. So it's not a good investment.
Oh, really? Okay. Right. Well, the thing is, speaking of media today, actually our topic, which has been on the Lawyer's Den before, is Trump versus social media. And the reason why we're bringing it back up on Media Monday, it is actually a media topic as well as a legal topic. And apparently he sued Facebook, Twitter, everybody else he can sue. And that took place between our filming, because we're filming Lawyer's Den again, the third season, before it moves on to ABC or some other network. We're filming again in October. So we brought in Professor Lamparero to discuss this. And of course, he's very shy, very delicate. So you have to be very careful, very touchy, very emotional. But we have a really strong issue in front of us, which is Donald Trump suing Facebook, Twitter, and all this other stuff, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. So we'll start with you, Adam, and I know we're going to have to try to pull you out of your shell. Tell us what's going on with Trump versus social media.
David, thanks for it. I enjoyed it. Trump's lawsuit, unfortunately, against social media is not likely to succeed. And that's because generally social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter are not state actors. They are private entities. However, that really doesn't necessarily end the inquiry, because social media has become so pervasive and so controlling in the public discourse, it's equivalent to literally a public forum, that there are arguments that because of that, and because of Section 230, which Congress specifically authorizes social media platforms to censor anything that's objectionable, because it has so interfered in the marketplace of ideas, and because it has been so biased against conservatives, that because of the statute and because of its role in the public forum, that it may be considered a state actor down the road. So there is a legal issue there. What I'll say just quickly, apart from that, is that social media has deliberately and intentionally censored conservative voices, particularly leading up to the 2020 election. There's absolutely no dispute about that. Whether it related to COVID, whether it related to Black Lives Matter, they were engaged in censorship. So yes, they're a private actor, but there is nuance in the state action doctrine, and there's reason to believe that they could be deemed state actors by the Supreme Court if it gets there. And I know David agree with
me. David, how do you feel about what Adam just said?
David, the author of The Making of Donald Trump, one of his best buddies.
Let me lay for those people, particularly overseas, who don't know the background of this, a little bit of a foundation. All right.
I'm listening, David. I'm listening.
In 1996, Congress passed a Telecommunications Act in the United States, and it included something called Section 230. And in essence, Section 230 said that if you have a social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, things like that, and something is posted which is actionable, that is, you accuse someone of a heinous crime they didn't commit, and they have the right, therefore, to sue you, that the platform would not be a party to the litigation. It was intended at the time to encourage more robust free speech. It has led, however, to a number of incidents, many of them involving Donald Trump, that were calls to violence and recommendations that people commit crimes. Now, each of the social media companies is a private enterprise, and they have terms of service for using their services, which are gratis. The financing has to do with selling your information as a customer and selling you ads in some cases. But when you sign up for these things, you sign a contract of adhesion, as we call them in America, because it is very one-sided, that you will obey the rules. It is no different than a restaurant posting a sign that says no shoes, no shirt, no service. Donald Trump was removed from Facebook, first temporarily, and then I think it's now for 2 years, and from Twitter, and from YouTube, because of his inciting the effort to overthrow the United States government on January 6th, after many previous incidents. In fact, just this morning, I was reviewing a compilation of Donald Trump's public addresses where he said, beat that guy up. You know, that guy should be punched in the face. Again and again and again, inciting people.
Like Maxine Waters.
What?
Like Maxine Waters?
Hold on. He's certainly not alone. I mean, Maxine Waters has made very similarly intemperate comments and is a perfectly appropriate person based on them if she posted them on the social media platform to be removed. I think she said them in public forums. She didn't post them. Now, if I'm wrong about that, then, you know, they have every right and they should remove her if they're going to be consistent. Now, Trump, finally, just let me finish that Trump's lawsuit, 3 lawsuits, which I've read and written a column about at DC Report, are incredibly badly drafted complaints. They go off into tangents. They are really fundraising efforts. Donald Trump knows perfectly well, and his lawyers must know, if they're at all competent, that they will not, as Adam pointed out, get anywhere legally with this case. Donald Trump is in financial trouble. He needs money. He has been raising money, roughly $250 million net at the end of last year, because he has these money-losing enterprises and enormous legal bills coming at him. And I refer to him now as America's beggar-in-chief.
Nick, can I say one thing?
Can I just say
we
something?
we want to hear from you, Adam. I brought my popcorn. I had to go downstairs, get my popcorn.
All right, well,
I got my Diet Coke. I'm ready to listen to you now, Adam.
I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to say, let's cut out all of the BS. Social media, just like people in the legal academy and at universities, pervasively discriminate against conservatives. They do it intentionally, and it's content-based discrimination. They are suppressing conservative voices intentionally. Now, yes, they're private actors. However, Congress gave them the right to do so under a provision in Section 230 that allows them to censor any objectionable content. Couple that with the fact that social media is the equivalent of a public forum in today's society, and that transforms them into a state actor. We should be supporting a marketplace of ideas in which all diverse perspectives are supported, not where there's censorship. And that's what's going on here. It goes on at universities, and it has to stop.
So, Adam, let me tell you where I disagree with you very strongly about that. First of all, censorship is a government action. These are not government actors. They edit. They exclude customers. They do not have the power to censor. That is a government power. Secondly, yes, they should apply their rules fairly. Of course, every private business in America treats everybody fairly, pays workers fairly, treats customers fairly, right? Because we live in a perfect world.
The pay of workers.
And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, I'm not having any difficulty finding on social media conservative points of view and conservative arguments. I see them every day. I read them every day. I don't even have to look very hard for them. So the suggestion that conservatives are being discriminated against, I don't think that's an established fact. It is an assertion, but in the case we're talking about, Donald Trump, it came after incitements to violence and other postings that violated the terms of service of Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook.
Okay, first of all, there's no evidence that he incited violence. Second of all, I'll quote Erwin Chemerinsky.
To attack the Capitol.
Excuse me, David. I will quote Erwin Chemerinsky saying, "Courts should uphold the social consensus by stopping all impermissible infringements on speech, not just those resulting from state action. They are controlling the public forum." And I'm surprised that you would not be a supporter of a marketplace of ideas and the welcoming of all diverse perspectives as a professor. You seem to countenance this kind of censorship by social media, which has dominated the public forum and public discourse for the last few years. So I disagree with you, but I respect your opinion.
Let me be clear about this. I'm a robust believer in free speech.
You certainly don't seem like it based on what you said.
But I'm also a believer.
Are so hopelessly biased against Trump that you can't be objective.
Property rights. I believe in property rights. And many conservatives, I'm discovering, don't. They want the government to interfere. And to take your argument back in time, in the late 1800s, when newspapers were the dominant form of communication, by your reasoning, the government would have stepped in and said, you are the real source of the public sphere, and we're going to decide who you have to allow and not allow. I don't want.
No, David, the difference is that Section 230 constitutes an impermissible delegation of authority from Congress to social media to ban anything they deem objectionable. That's the difference.
No,
and I agree with Erwin Chemerinsky.
I
don't agree with you, and I'd like to hear from the other panelists who deserve to be heard.
Adam, you should read Section 230 because that's.
And you should read the First Amendment because obviously you're not a fan of robust and diverse discourse, like most.
Wrong, completely wrong.
Okay, all right. Your objectivity is so compromised by your hatred for Trump that I can't really trust your analysis. Anyway, I respect your opinion, and I'll leave it to the other panelists so I don't take up too much time. Thank you, Nick.
All right, David. You know, seriously, I'm fairly conservative. It comes from my upbringing and my background. The problem I see with Facebook and Twitter and the others is that they impermissibly censored. I'm using that word. Voices that were promoting a specific point of view.
Exactly.
Now, in the COVID, for example, Donald Trump said something about hydrochloroquine. So suddenly the Democrats and the social media started banning anyone that promoted the use of hydrochloroquine. Oh, and we discover now, it's effective. My God, how many lives were lost because of the insensitive censoring of those statements and those positions? And not just politicians, medical professionals that had viewpoints to share were using it in their treatment and other things. And it was all stinking politically motivated. It had nothing to do with the medical efficacy of the drug. It was all politically motivated. Now, that's not the only thing that social media did, and you know it. I mean, I watched the whole Facebook battles that were going on timed for the pre-election, right? And so Facebook was used and manipulated as a tool for the DNC. Zuckerberg donated $800 million to the Democrats' whole effort to get out people who may or may not have been qualified to vote anonymously and without the proper credentials. So direct interference in the election. I mean, seriously. Okay, on the Black Lives Matter situation, anyone that didn't agree with BMW was censored. Black Lives Matter, a BLM, I guess. And it didn't matter if you said all lives matter or I support the police. Those statements were censored by Facebook, Twitter, and others because they weren't in line with the political rhetoric of the DNC and the crime bosses that were controlling all of that. I don't know why you're on the side of these social media companies that have been running roughshod over American public opinion and deliberately interfered in this election this last year. It's obvious. And for you to say and take your position that you are just because you hate Donald Trump is not correct.
I don't hate Donald Trump for starters.
Yes, you hate Donald Trump.
No, I don't.
You absolutely hate him.
The vitriol in everything you say. What I need you to do is do the same thing to Biden and his family.
Okay,
and look at them. Write about them.
Dan, I'll answer this. Hold on.
Well said, Dan.
You conflated a whole lot of things.
Bullshit.
Mark Zuckerberg is no Democrat. He's a libertarian. Silicon Valley, where I used to work.
I'm not a libertarian.
That is the biggest bunch of BS I've heard in the last 10 years.
David, you're so
You can't be serious.
Hold on.
There is no way he's a libertarian, David.
Secondly, I can't find any news of an $800 million donation by Zuckerberg to promote the DNC or Democratic candidates. And if you can show me that happened, I'd like to see it, but there's no.
Oh, they did it through legal means, David. But the purpose was to promote Democratic candidates.
And how do you know about it? How do you know about it?
Through the media.
How do you know about it?
Through the media. I mean, you can do your own research.
I just did a Google search about this, and I did.
Oh, you're not going to find anything on Google, David. Why? Because Google was complicit in the whole thing.
I can do a Nexus search.
And David, I'll tell you, for all the talk about fascism, this is fascism in theory and in fact that's going on here. Suppression of voices, content-based restrictions, viewpoint discrimination. You support it? I don't. I support diverse voices and everybody being heard.
I support the First Amendment.
You support anybody who bashes Trump, and you support any liberal cause. That's what you support.
The First Amendment does not give me a right to be published in the New York Times. The owners of the New York Times decide what gets published there. And as you know, I worked there for many years as a reporter. But social
media is different than the Times.
David,
we're talking. I'm sorry.
Social media controls public discourse.
Adam, you are being ahistorical and mechanical. Let's go back 120 years.
I've never been
newspapers were the overwhelmingly dominant social media platform. You would have had the government interfering in the news decisions of the New York Herald Tribune and the Los Angeles Times.
That's incorrect. I'm talking about 230 being an impermissible delegation of power to allow social media to censor anything they deem objectionable. It's in the statute. That makes them state actors, and because they control public discourse, that means that they can be deemed state actors. It's a novel legal theory, and I think it fits the times. I don't believe in going back to 1800. I believe in looking at what's happening now.
Okay. So let me be clear. I believe in the most robust free speech. Okay. I believe people who are Nazis have their sayings, and I'm with the dissenting opinion of William O. Douglas, who said of communists in the 1950s, they are beggars in the streets, merchants of goods no one wants. I think the solution to free speech is more free speech. But I also believe in something Republicans used to believe in, but clearly many conservatives no longer do: private property rights. And a private property like Facebook has the right to determine who's on its forum. Now, listen, Facebook has made every moral issue that has been raised in Facebook experience has been decided badly. They have a horrible,
if I buy property,
you're not addressing my argument.
They have a horrible, terrible record of making bad decisions. I'm certainly not going to defend Facebook, but they have rules for using their platform. And if you violate those rules, as a private property owner, you have the right to throw them out. And
David,
You're not
there has
addressing my
been
argument.
regulation
You're
of
not addressing
broadcasters for
It's
years,
all
say the
on private
FCC.
property rights.
It's a monopoly.
David, by your reasoning, if I buy property in the United States, I can make it a condition that somebody gives up their Eighth Amendment rights against cruel, unusual punishment.
No,
Right?
no.
If you come to my property,
That's
you
not
have
at
to
all.
get those rights.
That's a bad analogy.
Well, let's,
Shaq.
okay, well, let's go back to your argument about newspapers. New York Times versus Sullivan, 1964.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Justice Brennan talked about how free discourse, I'm paraphrasing dramatically because I'm not a lawyer, free discourse is essential to a functioning democracy. Okay. Yeah. The idea that so many people in America, and for your information, outside of America, feel as though their voices are silenced or impaired because of social media shows that there's a problem. Now, you're right. I've read most of, not all of it, but most of the cases that Donald Trump has lodged. I don't think he's got a snowball's chance in hell of winning the case. But what he is doing is he is garnering a huge amount of public support because there is such a huge number of people that are really unhappy. They're unhappy about not being able to question what they're being told by politicians. They're unhappy about not being able to question stuff to do with the vaccine. They're unhappy about they put up a meme and it's terrible. They're unhappy about it being passed off as a fact that January 6th was an insurrection. That was the fault of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump never said go in there and take over government, he said make your voices be heard. Okay.
Exactly.
Shaq, you made some very good points, and I want to address them before we.
Sitting down because of a breach of the social contract and their peaceful protests. People are sick and tired of it, and that's what this is a symptom of.
Shaq.
I'll just say this, David. When Donald Trump won the first time, much to the great surprise, I think, of most people around the world,
Not me.
in America, when he won the first time, that was a symptom of how out of control politics was and how far away it was from the people. And what this case is exactly the same thing.
Okay.
It just shows if you
Shaq,
question
You are 100% right. You're 100% right, Shaquille. And I'll tell you, I believe that for democracy to function, we need a robust and diverse discourse from all voices. Social media controls the discourse because that's the avenue that people are using to speak. So to hide behind some shield that they're private actors and not revise the state action doctrine, particularly in light of 230, is to suppress and censor speech. Okay. David wants to censor people. I want to welcome all voices, and that's the difference.
Adam, let me be clear. Let me respond, please, before we get so far away that I've got 62.
This is a lot of fun, by the way.
Number one, I don't believe in censorship of any kind. Government censor. Businesses edit or exclude. They are not. They may be somewhat similar, but they are not.
Social media is not exclusively private anymore.
Times versus Sullivan. Let's go to Times versus Sullivan. It's about an advertisement in the New York Times, not an article reported by the paper. The advertisement carried a factual error that the Times checkers who check editorial ads like that didn't grasp because they didn't understand the issue. They're not lawyers. They're people who worked in 1964 in the advertising department. And the court held the same thing that led directly to Section 230, that the Times isn't accountable for the error made by the person who bought the ad so long as they didn't know it was false and didn't set out maliciously to perpetrate the falsehood. So what's going on here is I want to have robust public debate. Okay. Personally, I would say to Facebook, Zuckerberg, if he were sitting in my office here, I would say to him, you should allow Donald Trump to foment violence and encourage illegal conduct on your website. Just let him do it because he will eventually become a beggar in the street of goods. That
people do that. That's the reason why you're getting the reaction from the panel that you are, because not a lot of people actually think. But people on the political left think that he encouraged violence. People on the political right.
Oh my God, Shaq! I will send you today the video of innumerable cases of Donald Trump saying, "Beat that guy up, punch that guy in the nose."
Shaquille was 100% right.
Maxine Waters has talked about this sort of stuff. Your friend Elizabeth Warren talked about this is a fight. We're going to fight to the bloody end. That these sorts of comments are made.
Saying we're going to fight something is not incitement to violence. Let's be more
in your opinion, and in the opinion of a great deal of people in America, Donald Trump did not entice violence or incite violence.
That's right. Well said.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was.
more-
he was- he was Mr.
as
Peaceful
by the
Man.
way, you guys,
You assume it as a conclusion, David, that which is very disputed
No,
by
Adam,
legal
that's
scholars.
not
In fact,
true.
most
If
say
you
that it does
read-
not meet the Brandenburg test. It's not even close.
But
if
wait
you
a
read
minute, Adam.
carefully the indictments of the more than 500 people now who've been charged, you will see in them that there were communications between Trump and some of these people, that there were communications the night before. Roger Stone, Donald Trump's 30-year-plus advisor, is
Okay, show me the statements that meet the incitement test.
No
You will
commentary
not.
about BLM
Well,
and Antifa.
Adam,
and
ask yourself this question: when the mob attacked, you don't disagree that a mob attacked the Capitol and broke in and assaulted police officers, right?
Correct.
Okay. And while that crowd was shouting, "Hang Mike Pence, kill Nancy Pelosi," did the Secret Service undertake any action whatsoever to protect Donald Trump?
Wait, one thing I want to
secure location. No. Did Donald Trump then intervene and say to his supporters, "Stop"? Yes, several hours.
That is
later.
completely irrelevant to the test. He did not incite violence. Read his speech.
I
Before
read his speech.
that
I've
happened,
watched the
it does
video.
not even come
It's
close.
an incitement to
Now,
violence.
I'd like you on this show to publicly condemn Maxine Waters for her statements
Oh, I have.
that
I have
incited
done that
violence.
before this.
Please do so.
Listen, I've known Maxine Waters for 40 years. I think she made incredibly intemperate statements and wrongful statements, not only here, but elsewhere. But she didn't post them on her social media account. And if
Look
I
at her
wrong
Twitter
about that,
feed.
I'll go
look,
back.
look at the interviews she gave, in which she said that she incited violence on a scale tenfold to what Trump did when you look at their words. The problem is that you are biased because you hate Trump. And it's
Okay, so
obvious.
Adam,
I'm sorry,
Adam,
David.
Adam,
I
number
think
one,
I'm great. But
Adam,
that's
let me be very clear about something.
you are biased, and
Adam,
it is obvious.
Adam, by your standard, the people I found.
social media posts,
Shaq,
but
let
then
me
you refer to what
Shaq, let me
Where's the mediator?
The people
Nick.
I showed committed crimes and who went to prison, including
David,
murderers.
I respect your viewpoint, and I respectfully disagree.
The people who committed crimes, did I hate them? I follow the counsel of the greatest detective in America, Jigsaw John, who said to me one day after I had solved a particularly nasty murder case the police hadn't solved, "I don't care who the killer is. All I care is I get the killer. If you hate people in my business, your career is destroyed very quickly."
I'm not saying you hate anybody. I'm saying you're biased because you hate Trump.
I don't hate
Well,
Trump.
he doesn't
That's my
hate Trump.
point. I feel sorry for the man. He's a miserable human being. But I
Your
judge him
statement
on his
suggests the
conduct.
contrary.
I judge him on his conduct, and I can back up everything I've ever written about him by showing his conduct, his criminal conduct in many.
I hope
cases.
you give the same critical eye to Joe Biden, Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren, and everybody else whose views so conveniently align with yours.
OAC, yeah, all of them.
Adam, you're just making that up because their views.
David,
don't
I
align with
respect you. I respect your view. We just disagree, David. David, we just disagree, but respectfully, this is a lot of fun.
You seem to be linking your argument to, well, one person said it and another person posted it, which is not really what happened with the January 16th, because he said it at a speech apparently. But what difference does it make? That is the mode of communication that is being used today by the majority of people, and to silence a sitting president.
Shaq, you raised a terrific point.
He's
it
not.
makes
He's
all
not.
the difference in the world
Look.
between someone standing in a public corner, as Maxine Waters did when she spoke in favor of violence, and posting it on someone's private property. You can't go into a shopping mall and give political speeches. That's private property. I can't believe people on this forum who consider themselves conservatives aren't defending private property rights.
Because social media has become the new public forum. That's the reason why the
Then
state
your argument would have been valid in
And number
the
two,
1990s
conservatives are
against
sick and tired of being censored repeatedly, intentionally, and pervasively, and that's what's happening on social media. And
like rules that apply to common carriers.
contrary to a marketplace of ideas and
common carriers have private property as well, but they're not allowed to exclude somebody because they have a different political belief.
Oh, actually, Shaq, you misunderstand the law there.
Discrimination rules in place.
Shaq, you misunderstand the law there.
Because of their political beliefs.
Jack, if you're a common carrier, if you're a traditional telephone company in the United States, which Kimberly used to own, 5 little telephone companies, What people say, whether they line up a drug deal or order prostitutes on the phone, is none of the common carrier's business. What the common carrier can't do is say, "Oh, we don't like your politics. We're not going to allow you to have service. You are entitled to service." But what the actual communications are no concern of yours unless the authorities show up with a search warrant because they want a wiretap or they want to put a pen register on that line. That is not, you misunderstand what a common carrier is.
I don't, not at all. But what I'm saying is that if people want to communicate on social media, it pretty much comes down to people don't read Donald Trump's tweets or his Facebook posts or anything like that unless they either see it in mainstream media or they are a subscriber or a follower of his tweets. To kick him off of that is to take away people's ability to communicate with each other. And that's where this comes down. As I said before, his case will probably lose based on my understanding of US law, but it is symptomatic of people's frustration. And conservatives, not that I am one by any stretch of the imagination, but conservatives have had it with all of this stuff. The IRS going after them and auditing their...
Okay, there's another thing you have wrong.
You are 100% right, Bill. You are 100% right.
Lies in America. And then, Adam, I'll shut up and you can speak, okay? This claim that the IRS went after conservatives. In fact, what the public record shows is that a self-described conservative mid-level manager in Cincinnati shown documents that on their face violated the law from proposed 501c4 applicants. Applications, by the way, that are gratuitous. You do not need IRS approval to become a 501c4. You do not need advance approval. He saw that they clearly proposed illegal action, and he issued an order which covered the whole political spectrum. The only organizations who lost their 501c4 status were progressive organizations, and I have likened what this manager did to a building inspector, shown plans for a building that's a fire trap or will collapse in the wind, saying, no, you can't do that. The reason people wrongly believe that conservatives were targeted when it was totally even-handed is because a member of Congress, Darrell Issa, asked the Inspector General, George, to only look for conservative organizations. When further inquiry was made, it turned out it was completely even-handed. So let's stop this lie that the IRS went after conservative organizations. It did not. That is a lie. And it's in the record. I've written columns about it and cited the official record. It's
all right. Well,
this lie that's been told that treating everybody equally instead of having affirmative action is somehow discriminatory against blacks because blacks are in a worse place.
You're off on a tangent.
It would apply the same way there, wouldn't it? It would apply the same way.
You're off on a tangent. The fact is there was no oppression of conservatives by the IRS office in Covington, Kentucky.
Yes, there was. And let's bring it back.
No, there wasn't, Adam. The record is right there.
Excuse me, please. My blood pressure is...
We'll take a commercial break, then you can get your blood pressure medicine under control, Adam. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sveta Banerjee, the founder of Chamomile. Welcome to the #1 impact community platform of entrepreneurs, impact investors, experts, and people who are driven by achieving sustainable development goals and, of course, positive social and environmental impact in our world. Among our members, we have already world leaders such as Prince Michael of Liechtenstein, former Minister of Netherlands, head of European Investment Bank, and many others. What can you do on the platform? Of course, you can fundraise if you have a project or a company. You can find various kinds of resources, including advisory board members and team members. You can, of course, invest with impact and learn about impact investing. So look, the world is changing, and it's not anymore a moral choice, but it is a smart choice to join impact investing community. I'm looking forward to see you at Chamomile.
So hopefully you got your blood pressure medicine under control, Adam.
I did, Nick. I feel better. I'm ready to.
Me and Bill Danko were eating our popcorn, listening to all this stuff. So
I'd be eating popcorn too if I sold 4 million copies of a book.
We're 4 million.
Hey there, guys.
I'm jealous.
Well, the thing is, and David, you also have a new book coming out, which is in September. So we're looking forward to it. Adam wants to buy it already.
Yay! It's coming out.
David, I want an autographed copy.
Yeah, we all want copies. So the thing
Let
is,
me just
I want to.
look. Internet neutrality is the biggest issue of our time because the First Amendment is critical to liberty and democracy. All voices, however unpopular, distasteful, or offensive they may be, should be welcomed in a public forum. And in the 21st century, the public forum is no longer a park or Main Street. It is social media. Social media has become the modern-day public forum where the marketplace of ideas exists. Section 230 gives Congress delegates to or gives social media the specific power to censor any views they deem objectionable, which would be unconstitutional if engaged in by a government actor. Given that social media is in fact a new public forum, given that Congress has delegated this authority to them, there is an argument to be made that they are a public forum. And I would think that David and ideas are welcome. People aren't censored, and we can have a true democracy in which ideas and viewpoints are exchanged to gather knowledge and make informed decisions.
that sounds very elegant, but the thing is, I don't know where you get off on allowing people to lie, which the Republicans do all the time. On social
You mean
media.
when they suppress
And the
Hunter
Democrats
Biden
too.
stories and the
And
stuff
but
behind
People lie on social media.
Let's cut through all this stuff. If Trump, who is a purported billionaire, and the brightest guy ever to walk the planet, he could form his own social media network. Why didn't the cheap SOB just do his own? Because it's too hard. So instead he files a lawsuit. Give me a break.
Right, but Nick, in 2016, everyone talked about election interference and disinformation. The disinformation in 2020 was so
wasn't
pervasive
any
because people
elective
like Jack
interference.
Dorsey were censoring conservative voices,
Good for
anything
him.
about Hunter Biden,
Good for
anything
him.
whatsoever.
Slap.
It was
Come
Conservatives
on. He did. Trump hired that firm in what was it in Great Britain to push out all his garbage through social media. Now he got it back the other way. And here's the facts: Trump lost both elections. And how did he lose it? Go look at the popular vote.
Conservatives are sick of being discriminated against in the academy, in politics, social media. Yes, they are, and we're sick of it.
Look. All right, to tell the truth. If they would, I catch these guys in lies all the time. Okay, I mean it's like every bloody day.
Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo.
I catch the Democrats in lies. I'm like Dave. I catch the Democrats in lies.
I think that their lips are moving.
It's a nonpartisan
lying,
issue.
right?
Well, it's a nonpartisan issue. Lying is.
Donald Trump can't even have his lips moved
because
he's been taken off Twitter.
Adam, I want to ask you a question. Okay, and
Sure.
I want to preface, by the way, to pointing out that I have ended the careers of far more Democrats than Republicans, and I've ended a lot of politicians' careers in the last 55 years. Have you read Title 47, Section 230? I just reread it while we were on the break. It says nothing of what you described. What it says is that these companies are immune from litigation if someone posts material that is actionable. It doesn't say anything about granting this power, this government power to censor, as you like to call it, or exclude or edit as private corporations are entitled to do. It doesn't say what you say it says.
It does, but I don't have.
Everybody lies, and I've made my living for 55 years exposing lies.
David,
Really?
Say that.
What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything in this discussion?
The issue is that it's being used in that way. It's being used to justify the suppression of conservative voices.
Thank you.
No, it's not. They're using their terms of service. I mean, if you want to have an issue, are contracts of adhesion, which is what the terms of service are, something we should continue to allow. And in fact, there's a chapter in my book on monopolies and contracts of adhesion about abuses of them in a Montana case. That it's a very revealing matter, and the Supreme Court, I think, decided a very unfortunate way. But Donald Trump wasn't removed because of his political views. And by the way, he's not lacking access. I've been watching him on national TV.
I'm not just talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about a lot of people that have things they want to say. It's not just about Donald Trump. It's about a lot of other people that have things to say who feel as though their voices have been suppressed. And you refer to the terms of service. You may well be correct, but I cannot, as an employer or as the administrator of some sort of social media service, require you to give up your constitutional rights. If you've got a right to free speech, you've got a right to free speech. That's the way it is.
Free speech
Yes, and
rights
by
are
granting
government,
social
not
media
private
immunity,
business.
by giving them immunity, you are allowing them to censor any content they deem objectionable.
I'm sorry, Adam, say it again.
I said by granting social media this blanket immunity, they are allowing them to censor anybody they want with impunity, and that's what they're doing. And they're doing it against conservatives. It's wrong. It disrupts the marketplace of ideas. It's antithetical to democracy. It's contrary to liberty, and it's exactly what the founders would have despised. The state action doctrine should be revised, or social media should be held via 230, and the delegation of Congress to allow them to do this to be held via state action.
I agree.
Here's what happens if you go down that road. You now
go ahead.
open a can of worms that'll never be closed of government and judges deciding who can and who can't speak, who's violated terms of service, whose speech is being suppressed. And by the way, there are plenty of progressives and liberals, especially at the far end of the spectrum, who will tell you that they think they're being suppressed and not heard. There are whole studies about PBS only having on middle of the road people, which is generally pretty true. They don't tend to have on people at the far end.
David, I'll give you a solution.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to go down that road. Social media could only censor information that would be deemed unworthy of First Amendment protection if it was done by a government entity. That would include obscenity, fighting words, and the like. Simple solution. There you go.
Well, drafted up.
I want to add something in this mix. One, we definitely need an overhaul of our system. It just needs to be overhauled. David had brought up something from the telecom world that a lot of people do not know, that even to this day, anything that crosses those lines belongs to the government anyway. It is all regulated. So no matter what you do, somehow or another, all of this data crosses the lines that the government owns. They will use it when they want to against who they want to. A lot of people don't know, if you use a curse word across those lines, that's a federal offense that can get you a couple of years. People don't know that. If you threaten somebody, if you pick up the phone and call and threaten somebody, that's a federal offense. That's not any other offense. That is a very powerful federal offense. Do they use it every time? No, because if they did, the jails would be full of idiots.
But Kim, the immunity that these guys are talking about gives social media sites immunity against them being prosecuted for somebody else using the service contrary to the law. I don't see how it gives them immunity to censor some people and not censor others, which is
well, I agree with you. I agree with you.
For David K. Johnson, or in your terms, suppress some views or edit some views or whatever semantic word.
The issue here is no different than a restaurant says.
It's interpreted that way.
You're not. We don't like your dress. We're not going to serve you. That you as an investor, when you were running a hedge fund, I'm not going to buy this investment. I'm going to buy that one. I mean, this is a private business decision.
David, that's not true. Social media has become the public forum for political speech. It is totally different.
I saw Donald Trump on all three television
Why do you
networks.
keep talking about Donald Trump? Every time.
Because he's on all the time. He's on every 5 seconds. Donald Trump
you can thank CNN for that. You can't let him go.
They have multiple television channels. They've got Fox, OANN, and others, Breitbart. They have plenty of outlets out there. Trump was on ABC, CBS, and NBC several nights last week. He's not having any difficulty getting his message out.
Not the point. The point is he doesn't have a Twitter account and he was banned from Facebook. That's the point.
He had access to those forums where he violated their terms of service.
You banning me from that park, so I can't speak what I want to say in that park. And then saying to me, well, there's a park a few suburbs over that you can go to.
But it's not a park.
He's exactly right.
Okay, social media is not a park. It's a private.
Yes, it is. It is the 21st.
No, see, that's your equivalent.
Your view is that you want the government bigger and intrude into private business. That's what you want.
I can't hear anybody.
You want to take away property rights from business.
No,
I don't want to take away property.
David.
What?
Public forums are protected for their First Amendment rights. And I mean, it's a public
but it's
forum.
not a
not
public
Have
forum.
you-
forum
It's a
because
have you
private-
ever
it's
been
a-
to a-
It's a private
people-
corporation.
Even by your argument of
Dan,
it being
you're a
private
law
property,
professor.
private property
The First
available to
Amendment
the public
applies
still has
to
to adhere by
Congress and
Sounds like the
government.
Jerry Springer show.
And
I mean,
to
really, come on.
incorporation applies to every government down to a mosquito control district.
The First
You wanna
Amendment
make
Apply to
artificial
privately
applies to
businesses.
public forums, David.
What?
Dan's
It's a
right.
Public
It's a
forum.
private
It's become a
company.
public forum.
Private
The
company.
public-private distinction doesn't
So what?
work in the
That's not what
21st
the
century
Constitution
because
says. I'm sorry, I
social
guess I'm the
media is
originalist
the
here on the
equivalent of
Constitution.
the public park. It's the equivalent of
Don't
Main
That's
tell
it.
me that our rights are protected for speech when I get invited to go to a presidential public statement and we're told what we can and cannot ask. Okay, we are directed what we can or cannot say in meeting statements of leaders, world leaders. If we go as media, sometimes we get handed a list of this is what you can and cannot say, and you agree to it. So you can
Stop trying to
tell me
find
that
a
we are given a freedom of speech. It doesn't exist.
Freedom of speech doesn't exist.
But it's
What
true
does
because the
exist
realities of communication are different in the 21st century than they were.
Well,
People don't go to the public parks anymore. They go on social media.
We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I
Hold
agree.
that thought. And Keidre goes, let's go look at something that took place 40 years ago. Who cares? Okay, that's political. And the fall season of Lawyers Den will begin in October if it's not being upgraded over to ABC as we speak. So we may end up losing it on the IBMTV network as it moves on to major media. Sorry about that, but our plan is to still stay here. Sorry about that, Adam. You know, so well, we'll see. We'll see. It hasn't. The deals haven't been signed yet. But we're still.
We should have David as a guest.
Yeah, David is a guest, right? I'll argue that on Lawyers Den. Okay, so we're back to Trump and versus social media. Our quiet and shy reserve David K. Johnson and our socially challenged person Adam Lamperero are having certain opinions. Challenged is a good word.
He doesn't even know when Christmas is. What's that Christmas tree doing up there in the background?
Well, he celebrates all year long.
Oh,
You know, so
I'm visiting.
sure
I'm
the story.
visiting my family in New Jersey, and my mom keeps a Christmas tree up all year round. I don't know why, but you know, hey, what can I say?
So, David,
Only decorate it once.
There's a reason for that.
Can I ask you a question? Based on what you've been saying about private property, and I had a chance to cheat and look up the case I was thinking about. Marsh versus Alabama, where that was about distributing religious leaflets and the trespassing laws not applying to private property. Why would laws like that? I obviously don't know the laws in your country as well as you guys, who are mostly lawyers, know them. But why would those sorts of provisions not apply here? If you are offering a service to the public, why shouldn't the public be able to expect that everybody has free and equitable use of those services?
Well, first of all, Facebook is subject to laws of general applicability about groups of people. So it can't say we're going to deny you access because you're a Muslim or you're a black or you're white. They're not allowed to do that. Marsh is a case I'm very vaguely familiar with. I'd have to reread it to appreciate the issue. It's not something I teach. And Shaq, what I teach my students, and the reason I keep going back to newspapers in the past and the words of the First Amendment and the words of the Act, is I teach my students principle and theory, not mechanics, because principle and theory is what will keep us from the heat of the moment mistakes we can make, like, making it illegal to be a communist in the United States, by trying to prevent the Nazis from marching in Skokie, which has a large population, or had at the time.
I think Whitney versus California took care of that.
So say it again.
So I think Whitney versus California took care of the communism issue.
So,
That's correct.
you know, I understand the issue that Trump not having this forum. It's unfortunate for him, but he only has himself to blame by his conduct. And
That is a
when I was
argument.
the hotel company,
Because
when I was the founder of a hotel company, we threw people out if they misbehaved.
A free person in a free society has a right and should have a right to upset and offend people. That's it. That's so important.
Thoroughly agree.
Used to swear and
Essential to democracy, to
Thoroughly
liberty,
agree.
to a marketplace of
Thoroughly
ideas.
agree.
And David,
Yeah,
you want to shut that down? I
No,
want to keep it
no,
open.
you didn't
I
hear
believe
what I
in
said,
diversity and a robust exchange of ideas. You don't believe in that marketplace of ideas.
Actually,
How many
I'm the
people
guy
did
who
George
quoted
Carlin
William O.
upset?
Douglas's dissent that we should let the communists say what they want to say. I believe in total free speech. That's not the issue. Donald Trump can do anything he wants to say, but that doesn't give him the right to use someone's private
Let me
property.
just repeat what I said earlier about Erwin Chemerinsky. Courts should uphold the social consensus by stopping all impermissible infringements on speech, not just those resulting from state action. Chemerinsky is a brilliant legal scholar. He's right. I support him. You don't. I don't support censorship. I support communication from all people of all backgrounds.
Well, I would oppose any limit on Donald Trump being able to give rallies and speeches. On the other hand, given his record of literally calling for people to be attacked, and you can see video, I'll send you the video.
That is not
of all the
true.
times. What are you talking about? He said, "Why don't punch that guy up? You should beat that
It
guy
wasn't
up."
on social media.
No, he
didn't legally incite violence, David.
Just like a lawyer, he was very careful.
I think you're in serious denial. I'm going to send you the compilation of
you people need
Donald's
to go and
remarks.
punch him in the face, right?
But Donald
I'm
has
gonna
a
vote
right to say anything he wants to say that falls short of those things which would be criminal, and then he has a right to say them. He just may have to suffer the consequences. I'll tell you the example I teach my students. Say you are a Mesoamerican and you want to revive the Aztec religion. You have absolute right to do that. And under the laws of general applicability, you have a right to do that until the moment you put a naked girl on the altar, raise up your knife because you're going to cut her heart out. At this point, you've committed an assault and properly should be arrested.
Yes, and Donald Trump didn't do anything close to that. The analogy is ridiculous.
David,
Why?
you know, in the aftermath of January 6th, people started to say we're swearing off these social media platforms. We're going to go and use Parler. We're going to go use all these alternatives. And what happened? Google, Apple, all these places that dominate that market said, well, you can't have your app on our stores anymore. You know, because we have private enterprise, we own the users.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying they did.
So what I'm trying to get at,
what are you saying they did?
They made sure that people could not access apps like Parler. I forget the other one that people wanted to use as an alternative.
They threw Parler
Now,
off.
to use your argument about your private property, and to use your argument about newspapers is what you were trying to use for. That would be the equivalent of saying, I own this particular bridge. It's a private bridge. And because I know that you are carrying newspapers that I don't approve of, you're not allowed to sell those newspapers to the people in this area that want to read them. That is absolutely outrageous conduct, and it's against the Constitution of the United States.
Well said.
It's a private bridge.
Nick, I think it's a private.
I'm the
This is a
devoted
class.
capitalist.
You can't. I don't think you can do that, especially if you're common carrier. Of course, you can't.
You can.
You
throw
raise
them
an
off.
interesting question. I haven't thought a lot about a company like Apple saying we won't sell your app for Parler. Here's the example I would think through about that. I am selling a book on how to assassinate people and get away with it, and another book on how to cheat on your taxes. Now we're in the realm of commercial free speech, which the Supreme Court gives a lower threshold to than political speech, which gets the highest threshold.
Yes.
And can I ban your books and not sell them on my site because you are teaching people how to commit crimes? That's exactly what happened with the Anarchist Cookbook back in the 1960s, which showed you how to blow up bridges and kill police officers and things like that.
You guys are all still missing the fundamental point.
The equivalent
okay, what's the fundamental point?
Fundamental point.
Anarchist Cookbook, I'm not going to sell any of your books, and I'm not going to allow my people to have even heard or access the book around me, I'm going to block them from being able to do
I want to hear from Adam what the fundamental
I
point is.
want to know what the fundamental point is also. Adam,
Wow, so many people want to hear what I have to say. This is a moment of greatness. The First Amendment protects speech. It's critical to democracy. Technology, social media, has transformed the public forum from a park into a social media. Facebook is the new public forum. And as such, First Amendment values should be respected there. All views should be respected. And that is the fact of technology. And unless we adapt to current circumstances, we're not going to have the type of robust marketplace of ideas that the First Amendment demands required.
Here's the problem I see in your argument. In the 19th century, that platform was newspapers. And we know that newspapers printed lies. They excluded Black Americans. Read Brent Staples in the New York Times this Sunday.
Well, the solution to speech is more speech.
You would have the government tell the newspapers in the 19th century that you can't exclude things. You can't edit, which is journalism is about editing.
That's not true. I would say that they could exclude obscenity. They could exclude fighting words under Brandenburg, obscenity under Miller versus California, but they can't engage in content-based and viewpoint-based discrimination because that's antithetical to democracy and precisely what democracy requires, which is welcoming all diverse perspectives, however unpopular.
So you would have said a newspaper editor in 1856. We're not going to mention James Buchanan because we think he's a terrible person, a terrible president, and you would have the government intervene and say, you must cover James Buchanan.
No, because you're talking about compelled speech. I'm not compelling social media to say anything. I'm saying they can't censor anything.
So you're saying James Buchanan,
compelling
speech
James Buchanan and ensuring a marketplace of ideas. You're making a fundamentally wrong distinction.
I got your argument, Adam. I won't sell James Buchanan an ad in my newspaper. You're saying the government can force me to run that ad.
I'm not saying the government can force you to do anything.
Sure you are.
I'm saying
the government will be able to force Facebook on Donald Trump on Facebook.
No, because I'm not saying the government can force you to do anything. I'm saying the government can prohibit you from engaging in content-based discrimination because by virtue of being a public forum in the 21st century, they're ipso facto public actors.
Well,
state actors.
The principle of what you're arguing would have applied to a newspaper in 1856.
No, it wouldn't have because you're talking about compelled speech. You're talking about compelled speech.
No.
That is totally different.
Yes,
Adam, I'm going to quote.
Under your idea, would have to run an ad by James Buchanan that I don't want to run.
I already explained why that's not true.
Adam, you're wrong. You're so wrong. The government knows they can make you do anything. And I will quote what I recorded on a recording with them that we can.
Hold on a second. I'm not saying the government's making social media do anything. I'm saying social media is a state actor. So the government's not making them do anything.
I didn't see that law. Where
I'm sorry to cut you off, Kimberly. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that. You're right. You know, with all of that being said, I think social media does misuse their power of authority. I also think the government uses that and twist a lot of things. But I think it's the people of pure heart like us that care, that want to see a change. We can make that change. We can make it happen, but we just have to be open. We have to expose things, and we have to let people know what the truth is and back it up with facts. Like, you know, David and I, everything we do is backed up 100% with facts. And that's the only way we're going to be able to do it.
And here's a fact. We're out of time, so we want to thank David K. Johnson, our Pulitzer Prize winner, Adam Lamparero, who's actually
thank you guys. It was a lot of fun
at Georgia College, Shaquille Latmer, Bill Danko, Dan Worthington, Kim Calhoun, and we'll see you next time on Media Monday. Take care.